Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pumpkin Spice Podcast. I'm Graham Young.
And I'm Rob Schulte.
We're back to talk more Maniac
It's
Cop.
Mania here at Pumpkin Spice,
with
Graham.
Maniac Cop 3. But yeah, I think that the title for this episode we decided on was Maniac Cop 3, You Had Me at Maniac Cop 2.
Badge of Silence is what it's supposed to be. But yeah, you had me at Maniac Cop 2 because... Well, I mean, I think it's known far and well that this may not be the most popular of the Maniac Cop films.
And William Lustig might agree with us on that.
Really?
He actually walked off the set.
Really?
Yeah. And the movie was finished by Joel...
Schumacher.
Well, no, it's a name that I can't pronounce. I was actually going to ask you this before we started the episode, Rob, but let's see if you can tackle this. I'm going to spell this out for you, and you give me the proper pronunciation. This is a new
I love segments. You know that.
Okay, so his last name is S-O-I-S-S-O-N.
O-N. Soyson would be like what it seems phonetically, but I guess you could say like, no?
Soyson?
That's what I would think.
All right, grammar nuts, come and get us.
Yeah, they're waiting for you, Graham. I don't know.
Well, anyway, we'll just say good old Joel, took over for William Lustig after he walked off the set.
Was a producer ended up being a director. Wow. Wait, is there an actual story? Has it leaked? Has the scoop already happened? Like, why did he leave the set?
Well,
stormed off, quit.
Well, yeah, he stormed off, and here's the thing, like, he's used to sort of having these types of problems. Like, the production on Maniac Cop 2 was insane, and he endured that, and the movie was a success. But with
a shining light, some may say.
Yeah, it's an amazing film, but part 3, again, there were problems, and I believe the cut that he turned in was only like 51 minutes, and he was like, that's all I could get. That's all I could squeeze out of what we shot. And the producers of the film were pissed, and the current running time on the version that I watched, Rob, was 85 minutes. So yeah, the movie is not the best in the series, and our point being, William Lustig would probably, Bill Lustig would probably agree with us on that.
You know that, I know that, she knows that, Scumbag knows that.
My head was put in a very specific spot of dislike. I can get through the previously on this film text crawl, okay? I can get through that even though it shouldn't have been there. But I had to text you because I was like, I don't know what this advance in technology or change in technology is that now the films look like they are on USA Up All Night. And you had to inform me that this was the time that videotape became readily available.
Yeah, we used to call it shitio when we were kids. Like, you go to the VHS, you go to the rental store, and you grab a tape, only to find out that it was shot on video, and it would just like ruin the night.
What does that mean? Like, let's break that open.
So it's not shot on 35 millimeter film, which was pretty much the standard in the 1980s throughout most of the 1990s.
So it was less expensive. Is that really what's going on here?
Significantly less expensive.
Yeah, that speaks to the quality of film.
That's true. But I do want to point out that I do love films that are shot on video. I do love films that are shot digitally.
But when you see that, it's implanted in your brain because you have seen some negative films. Is this what you're telling me when you go to the video store?
Like, the first time we ever saw a movie shot on video, it was probably kind of a bad one.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so, and off the top of my head, I cannot think of any good examples of great movies shot on video. I'll think of them here in a few. Of course, when we wrap up the episode, I'll save it for next time. But yeah, so there's a quality dip right off the bat that you sort of notice.
Yeah, it totally puts it in perspective that this movie didn't have the budget of the previous ones. Or even if that's not true, that's what's been planted.
This filthy creep's gonna make us rich.
The movie does have some 35 millimeter shots, but only when they flash back to Maniac Cop 2, which they do a lot in this movie. And I think a lot of the padding from 51 minutes to 85 minutes comes with the flashbacks to part 2.
Really? That makes a whole lot of sense.
And at that time, Joel was probably just thinking, what? I gotta get the audience what they want. Maniac Cop 2.
Before we get too much further, we should give our listeners who maybe have not wanted to endure this structurally shaky film, how about I read the IMDb user-generated storyline?
Sounds good.
Okay. A female cop is gunned down and wrongly accused of using excessive force in a hostage rescue attempt. Maniac Cop returns from the dead once more to seek revenge, destroying everything and anyone that stands in his way. Written by a guy named Rob. Not me, though. He's got a different last name. Would you say that's accurate, Graham?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty short and to the point, but there's pretty much two storylines going on with Maniac Cop 3, and in my opinion, they don't mix very well. Rob, did you want to get into that a little bit further?
Yeah, are you talking about the Robert Davi sexual dynamo storyline?
That being one, and then also, and we're just going to go ahead and get into this, Rob.
Sure.
The voodoo stuff.
Of course.
Now,
we have previously recorded episodes where we have had voodoo debates and just discussions, let's say. There's no real debate. So we have established our thoughts that the listeners will hear in the coming weeks. But Graham, feel free to act as if we have never had those conversations.
Okay, yeah. Basically, Rob and I have come to the determination that voodoo in a horror film will kill that movie unless it makes sense, either in its location or it makes sense culturally.
Like, yeah, historically something's going on here. Like, it's not a tool to be wedged into any film.
Yeah, it's really weird. It doesn't work. And especially if your film takes place in New York City with Maniac Cop 3 or Child's Play in Chicago, those really aren't known for voodoo hotbeds. And it doesn't work for me, Rob. Did it work for you?
No, it's tiptoeing around like fringe religions and groups, like already kind of a bad look to begin with, but they don't do it well, and it doesn't make a lick of sense in the film.
You know, Larry Cohen worked with Lustig on these scripts. He's a great writer-director, and I don't know what he was thinking with this, but yeah, voodoo is not the way to go. I don't think it's particularly that scary.
What's with like the 80s, like something must have been like going around like that was a new hype thing, because that would have been just before this would have been around the time of Satanic Panic, so that might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
Same with... Well, but Child's Play was earlier. What if Child's Play is like a precursor to the Satanic Panic because of the devil worship voodoo kind of occultiness to it?
That's true. I thought that had been going on since like the late 70s, though.
Well, I'm sure it probably started way back.
Sure, but definitely that is a part of it.
But the early 90s was when people were doing like regression therapy stuff, and saying like, oh yeah, a cult like abducted me and burned my skin, and there was the FBI. I'm on a big tangent here, Graham, but there were no satanic cults in America.
Well, I don't mean to get too political, but do you think that the Satanic Panic is still going on today?
Oh, I think to an extent, but I'm not exactly sure which direction it might have taken. Because there was a time just after the huge panic, like the Dungeons and Dragons scare, that Marilyn Manson's Antichrist Superstar came out, and I remember people up in arms. Like, they were so freaked out in Middle America, and probably other places too. But then not 4 years ago, I saw some track and field family event where the shot put person had the beautiful people as their like pump up jam and people were cheering, moms and kids. So I don't know what happened exactly.
It's weird. Yeah, I can remember people freaking out about Marilyn Manson, and looking back on it in like retrospect, it was just like really crappy music. And why anyone would be frightened of that is like insane.
Voodoo brings back Cordell, the Maniac cop, even though previously voodoo was not necessary.
True, that you bring up a good point, Rob, but what was the point of bringing him back? They never go into that.
No, I think you're right. There's no reason for it there. It's
there's no character motivation for him to bring him back.
No. What do they try and squeeze in there that like they need him for that like crime they're trying to commit?
I have no idea. Basically, the two plots connect whenever Gretchen Becker plays Katie Sullivan. And so Katie Sullivan is the cop that is forced to gun down this crazy man in a pharmacy, and she is mortally injured in the process, and basically they're going to try to use voodoo to bring her back to life, which doesn't work out at all, so I don't even know why that was even a thing, but it was. And if this sounds like convoluted or we're not making that much sense, I doubt watching the film would help you at all.
Yeah, you might get a better grasp on story if you can pay attention longer than us. So could have been I was having a bad watch, but both of us having a bad watch. I think the odds are in our favor here.
Well, I think that one of the big differences between Maniac Cop 2 and Maniac Cop 3 is the pacing. And in Maniac Cop 2, every scene is just there's something going on. It's things riveting.
Slow and long in this one.
And didn't really go anywhere. And I didn't really see much of a point of the Maniac Cop being back.
Yeah. He was used as a tool, but that didn't actually get any follow through as well, I think.
It's like bringing back Freddy Krueger and like you're like, "Hey Freddy, but all the Elm Street kids are dead." And Freddy's just like, "Yeah, I just thought I'd hang out."
Oh, also instead of using like any of my supernatural abilities, I think I'll just use a gun the whole movie.
Yeah, that was super lame, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That must be the most cruel injustice of all.
There was a couple of stunts that are not as good as the second. And I was kind of getting into the movie at that point. So there's like two cars riding alongside of each other, and the driver in one of the cars is on fire.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is kind of cool, you know? And wow, that's an incredible stunt because they had to get the car going, and then they got to light the person on fire, and the guy's kind of reaching for the people in the other car, and it's a really cool kind of setup. And they're like, hey, you know, we got to go faster to lose this guy. And no one thought to hit the brakes in the other car. You will stop, and the other car will continue on. And you're just like, duh, and you're unable to enjoy the scene because it's stupid. And I think whoever was driving the car on fire, that's an amazing thing, but really at the service of nothing.
Oh, man. Graham, you said it all, which leads me to something that was very, very important in my book when watching this movie that I've talked about a little bit already. In that scene, like Robert Davi gets out of his seat and the other woman...
Dr. Susan Fowler.
Yeah, Dr. Susan Fowler gets in the seat to drive. And then after they do all of their... Like, he throws an oxygen tank in the back of the car to get rid of the maniac cop, Cordell. And he gets back in the driver's seat. Like, well, I mean, I am the man. I need to be driving the car.
Yeah.
Whereas if he would have thrown the oxygen tank in the back seat and then been like, drive, 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 they would have had an even further head start.
Yeah.
You know?
But I'm the man.
Yeah, it just really felt like that, which leads me back to the very first scene. they introduce him as this like motorcycle jacket wearing sexual figure because of the cop that he's flirting with, but like they're in an underground indoor shooting range, and she makes comments of like, oh, you don't need ear protection? And he's like, he says something, but it's essentially like, nah, babe. And you're just like, you don't have super powered ears.
Yeah.
It's like he's like a Superman for being a man, but nothing about him reads as flirty, attractive, fun to be around, or even dangerous. Like, dude, I think it's a faux leather jacket, too.
I was confused because it looked like he was wearing a tuxedo for most of the movie. Now, his bow tie was undone, because it's kind of that cool look.
Like, he's let it
after
lay
the
loose.
party look.
Yeah.
But he's wearing like a fucking tuxedo. And he's a cop. He's a New York City cop, even though the movie's shot in fucking LA and it's so obvious.
Are you saying his motorcycle jacket looks like a tuxedo?
So he's wearing his motorcycle jacket, and then underneath, he's wearing what appears to be, or what looked like to me, to be a tuxedo.
Are you sure that he's not wearing a bolo tie?
No, I'm from Texas. I would have noticed that. Dude, here's the thing. If you're like in a biker gang, right, but you've been invited to the ball of whatever city you're living in, dude, go for that Robert Davi Maniac Cop 3 look. It's not going to let you down, and you'll look stunning.
Oh, God. Nothing about him screams danger or action star. Do you think he had a hand in this? Because that first scene was like agonizing to get through.
Yeah, I think that clearly everyone was in for the paycheck. I don't know, man. Like, it seems like it's a movie that no one wanted to make.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like it was a cash grab.
And too much had been sunk in by the time Bill left the set.
Yeah, and I think that with the success of Maniac Cop 2, I think the studio was kind of thinking, hey, it's 1993 and horror franchises are still going on. New Nightmare came out in 94.
Yeah.
And
Scream came out 3 years later, I believe.
That's true. Jason Goes to Hell came out 93, I think.
Look back to last year's season if you'd like to know exactly when it came out. Graham, I think we should take time right now to go to that break. Okay, and in our breaks, I do our call to actions. We have our Patreon page where you can go and donate $3 to support us, $1 if you want, or $5 to get bonus episodes from Graham and I. So that's pretty exciting, don't you think, Graham?
That's a steal.
What would you want your number one bonus episode to be?
I'm so sort of set on Pumpkin Spice talking about horror films, and if I could pick any movie, just a one-off to do, it would be my favorite vampire movie of all time.
What's that?
1971, and it is my favorite vampire movie of all time.
So if you want to hear us talk about, say it one more time, Graham, then get to that patreon.com/pumpkinspicepodcast and pledge $5. That is not a lot of money. Now, if you can't do that, a rating and review on Apple Podcasts will do just fine. Helps us stand out in a crowd. And if you can't do that, please tell a friend. It might be a fun show. They might enjoy it, and maybe they'll do the previous things. The pressure's not all on you.
But it's got to be on someone.
And Graham, don't lie. Okay, let's get back into the show. There's not much left to be said about this episode, and then we got to tip people off on what to expect next week. But does our show need a tagline, do you think? Or do you think we're good at just letting it flow the way it does?
I have to think of a tagline.
It's like where every day is Halloween. Where every episode is, I don't know, Castle Rock.
So it'd be hard to beat the tagline that I have for my game show. My coworker Brian Blake came up with this. Brian, if you're listening to this, the tagline for a game show is if the questions are too hard, watch more movies.
Yeah, that's good. That's damn good.
But no, for a tagline for this show, stay spooky.
Ooh, stay spooky. I like it.
Or get groovy for the movie, whatever that means. I don't know.
Get groovy for the movie, whatever that means. I don't know. Okay,
Yeah,
we're going to
that's a good
workshop
one.
them.
That's a good
Whatever
one.
wins in the next few episodes, we'll just tack at the beginning of all of our fall episodes.
During an event which can only be described as a black rainbow of terror.
Did you have a favorite part?
Yes, when the movie ended. No, I did. Like I said, I enjoyed the stunt work at the very end, even though it didn't make logical sense for the film. There was an actual person that lit themselves on fire and drove a car for an extended period of time, and that is amazing. And whoever did that, Rob, should get an Academy Award.
I agree. It was the only part of the movie that really kept my attention the entire time. I even put my phone on like the other side of the room because I found myself getting that distracted. But that scene, albeit they could have just slammed on the brakes, was fun to watch, especially when Robert Davi needed to drive.
Yeah, he needs to flex his man muscle every now and again. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Jackie Earle Haley is in this movie. He is the stick-up man at the pharmacy.
You can't hurt me, because I'm immortal.
Look at this sick bastard.
Most people will probably know him from the bicycle film or bicycle racing film Breaking Away. I know, Rob, you probably are most familiar with him from the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, one of your favorites.
Oh, yeah. Just right up there on the top of the DVD shelf. You know what? I mean, obviously, we don't really have very many DVDs these days.
Well, here's the thing, everyone. You know, I'm in New York City right now where I'm getting ready to go back to Texas, and I'm looking at Rob's DVD setup right here, and you have a good, decent collection for people that don't own physical media anymore.
Buttercream Gang Part 2. The Peanut Butter Solution. You notice something weird?
Yeah, that you had placed A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake, on the DVD rack so everyone could see it. But then in the trash bin next to your DVD rack are all 7 original Nightmare on Elm Street films. So what's going on here?
Lie. You are trying to smear my name.
What's going on, man? We need to talk.
Obviously, a prank has been pulled that I will rectify when I visit you in Texas. Anyway, bad movie, Maniac Cop 3. I say you can skip it. We never really say skip it or whatever, but I would say 2 and 1 in that order.
You know what I would say? As Lars Ulrich's dad would say, I would say delete that.
Done and done. So if you'd like to join us next week, we don't plan on stopping. But this time we are taking Graham's Cadillac or El Camino, whatever I said you were driving. And we're heading to Texas. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that, Graham?
Deep in the heart of Texas. We'll be traveling to Austin, Texas, my home. And we're going to talk about the greatest American horror film of all time and its sequels. And possibly the greatest horror film in general of all time. I'll let you think about that, and we'll see you next episode.